Welcome back, welcome back. We are here for another episode of Uncut and Unfiltered. Stevie and Ian joining me as always. Gents, pleasure to see you.
Hello.
Lovely Friday.
Afternoon, mate.
I'm very, very excited this afternoon. Very excited indeed. We're starting with Highland Park, which, big name, right?
Yeah.
Big name in whiskey. A distillery with quite an interesting past, and they're doing some interesting things at the minute, I suppose. We would all agree on that.
Well, look, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Highland Park.
Right.
First single malt that I bought.
Right. I'd say that's probably true of quite a few people, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's easily available in the supermarket. It's a 12-year-old age statement, very accessible price, lightly peated, pretty popular. And it was kind of, I guess, natural that was where I probably ended up going in and buying that first bottle, right?
For sure.
I'd taken the decision to try and drink better, I guess. I've been working up in Scotland a couple of years before, had the odd whiskey, hadn't really gotten into it, wish I had. And yeah.
It was the first serious malt that you tried.
Highland Park 12 was the first kind of it's the first bottle of single malt that I'd ever bought.
Wow. Fair play.
And that started this
the wonderful journey off.
Deep dark path to being on the Uncut and Unfiltered podcast.
Exactly. Before we say anything then, let's give a big shout out to Highland Park for bringing Ian into the fold with us. That's awesome. Fair play. I have to say, remembering your first dram, or certainly the first dram that sort of made it tick, as a big moment. So it's lovely to hear that Highland Park is doing that. I would have to agree, Highland Park is probably one of the first peated drams that I tried and not only sort of found palatable and kind of, it's okay, but also actually really enjoyed it, like truly enjoyed it. That sort of heathery peat, it is a bit lighter, it is a bit more sort of approachable to the novice drinker, I suppose, let's pour some whiskey in our glasses. It's a bit of a dry conversation at the minute. Should we start with the 12? 12's always
it's the standard,
the entry level, right? Let's do it.
I guess
glasses in.
There is a 10, I think, but the 12 I think you see more of.
Yeah, the 12 you definitely see an awful lot more of. The 12 to me is the entry-level dram. I know what you mean. There is obviously, as with everything, we did Talisker recently. There's the Storm, there's the Sky. The 10 is still the entry-level for me. This is what I would go to if I was going to buy sort of a cheaper entry-level Highland Park. Definitely go towards the 12.
It's much more accessible. I see it a lot more on the shelves.
Again, though, I just find that there's just that jump up in quality. I've only tried the 10 once or twice, so I can't speak to it with that much sort of conviction. However, I've found that the 12 is quite a bit better in my, from recollection. So why would you not spend that little bit extra? I don't know exactly what pricing we're talking here, but it's not significant, is it?
No, it's a couple of quid.
Yeah.
I also think if you're looking at an auction and you're one of those people that kind of wants to look for an older bottling, the Highland Park 12, when you go back to the dumpy bottles that were released up until, I don't know, the early 2000s, they're still really accessible and very good. You can get them for as low as 60 or 70 pounds, and you can get stuff that was distilled as far back as the late 60s and early 70s, and therefore bottled like 80s for like 100, 120 quid a bottle.
Pretty reasonable for a snapshot of whiskey, 30, 40, 50 years ago.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
It's always been 40%, so you can really trace it through.
Has it?
Yeah.
That's really interesting. Okay, I'm surprised by that.
You see the odd bottle at 43,
okay,
but it's generally been 40 as far as I'm aware.
Okay.
At least on all the bottlings I've seen. Someone could easily come around and say, Ian, you're talking shite. But the ones I've had,
and I'm sure they will.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, internet.
Yeah. No, I mean, the 12 for me actually is something I haven't tried in quite a while, and it's nice. But it's not overly complex. And I mean, we have been seriously spoiled recently. We've been so busy the first part of this year. We're only beginning of March now. And already the amount of stuff that we've done and the amount of whiskeys that we've tried, I am spoiled for choice. But it's not giving me the same level of depth that I was remembering from before. And I don't know, maybe that's just where I'm at the moment in my journey, right? Maybe it's just today.
So I guess there's two things, but I still really like Highland Park. I've got a lot of Highland Park at home. It's probably one of the 3 or 4 distilleries that I have most
open bottles of.
Yeah,
right.
There is an ongoing and repeated criticism that Highland Park is not as good as it used to be.
Yeah, I think that's kind of by and large true of every distillery.
Yeah, at
This
the
is
moment,
yeah.
yeah.
I think the Highland Park fans seem particularly vocal about it.
So not that I would agree with that, with complete, I wouldn't, not venomously sort of, after them for dropping quality. What I would say is their core range and the number of releases, whether it's core range or sort of special releases, has become more expansive. Now, that's good in some ways, but I can only imagine that because they're rushing to get more and more stuff out, they're spending less time sort of quality checking the stock, less time behind each expression.
The stills are probably running.
Well,
where
that
they
as
are
well,
24/7,
24/7, yeah, correct. But not only that, but because they're trying to get more stuff out, some of it is falling a bit short. Would that be maybe fair to say as well? Would that be a
I mean,
factor?
again, it's probably the case with most distilleries, right?
Right, yeah, no.
Can they get enough casks at the right quality for the extra production as well, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Are you using more refill? I mean, if you've ever lucky enough to try old school Highland Park 25 and 30, they are just wonderful. I've not had the kind of latest like rebranded, rebottled 25s and 30s. We've got the 21s.
Has it been
here.
quite a jump in price since the rebranding?
Not massively. They were never cheap. Like, they have obviously gone up in price. I think it's the secondary effect on those older bottles as well. The best way to do it is you will see them on auction every so often. Until literally only about 4 or 5 years ago, there was a collection of miniatures, but they'd all been bottled ages ago and they took ages to go through the stock. So it's the old like 47% rather than 45, because there was a point in time just before the rebranding where they also dropped the bottling strength a little bit.
Right.
It's actually now back up a little bit again. And you got a little 5cl of the 12, 15, 18, 25, and 30.
It's quite a nice set.
And you can still get that set on auction for not much more than it was at the time. I think it was a 90 or £100 set for the minis. Obviously, the 30 alone is, an expensive dram for 5cl.
Yeah. I think that's really not too bad. Again, like you say, it's not a cheap brand, right?
No, and it never has been, because it's always had a following. I think for they were one of the first distilleries to put out single malts.
Yeah.
And you can get that set on auction still for £120, £130 plus fees. So you're looking at like 150 all in. And the liquid, especially that 25 and 30, are just sublime. They are amazing whiskies.
Oh, fair enough.
Look out for those then.
Yeah, well, exactly.
We'll hold this back before the
making me
auction's
thirsty. Yeah. No, yeah, that's really interesting. No, I'm enjoying this 12. It's not bad 12. It's just not.
I must
quite
say,
what I
as an
remember.
entry-level 12-year-old that you can get on the supermarket shelves,
It's good.
it's good. It's better than some, right?
Oh, definitely. It's just like I say, I haven't tried this in quite a while.
Yeah, but
And
that's
it's funny
naturally
how
gonna
your
happen.
memory and your palate change, right? And
You've drunk a lot of whiskey, mate, since you probably had
right,
that
it's
12.
not too much. I'm not that bad, mate. Yeah.
But
you know what I would
you're
do with this
definitely
though?
going to get.
What I think is really wonderful about this jam, you could chuck this in some cocktails and make really good cocktails. And at the price point that it's at, you don't have to be too precious about it.
No.
And I think that this would actually bring, the light heathery peat, there's richness in there.
Would you like to see it higher,
nicely.
ABV wise?
Always, mate.
Of course you would.
When there's
yeah.
something 40%, it's rare that I think, oh, that works perfectly. Look, I think that, again, as we say, this is a very accessible entry-level dram. And back to Ian's point just a moment ago, I think it's fascinating that they are kind of one of the core brands, that has such a base following, even though the brands that they are competing with are kind of the top echelons, the Glenlivets, the Glenfiddichs, the Macallans. These guys produce 2.5 million litres per annum.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong, it's a lot of liquid, a lot of whiskey, but
And actually, not a lot of that, I don't think, goes into blends either.
No.
I think only about 20%, 20-30%.
for sure. Not a huge amount. I mean, it's obviously in the grouse.
Of course.
But that will be a lot of their younger stocks
Yeah.
and whatever. But what I think is interesting is they've still managed to keep that following.
They're pumping out a lot of bottles.
And this is the thing. I
single
think to
malts.
answer your question, would I like to see it at a higher strength? I don't think that's what matters to me here, because this isn't a bad whiskey. Yes, okay, they've tried to maximize profits, but look, at the end of the day, these come to businesses, right? They've got to have money in the bank. I appreciate that. I think what I would like to see is a refocus of branding. Now, we've all discussed Highland Park branding before, both briefly on episodes, but also more extensively just between ourselves. I think it's safe to say we're not necessarily all the biggest fans.
I don't buy into it.
So go on, Ian, you go first.
So I really like the glassware that comes with it. Since they've changed it and you've got this kind of pattern on it, it's the same kind of H that they've had again for probably 20 plus years now. This is fantastic. The bottle shape is fantastic. It just doesn't need to have all of the Viking this, that, or t'other with it, right? And actually they stop once you get to the 21. Like, this is just the Highland Park 21.
Okay.
It's not the Earl something, the Lord something, the, longboat, whatever.
But you know why I think that is? Because they are trying to appeal to this younger crowd. They're trying to get non-whiskey drinkers in by kind of appealing to this. Vikings are cool, right? You've got all these Viking TV programs.
Yeah, what are you going to do? Start doing a bit of fake product placement? Like,
yeah, look, I agree with you. I completely agree. And what I was saying to Stevie not long ago is like, I agree. I think the Viking thing is thin. I get it. Vikings were on Orkney Island and they have some history there. That's cool. But if you're going to play on it, like you say, don't just put it on a few of the bottles and kind of, Stevie was saying you went onto the website there recently, right?
Yeah, nothing.
You wanted some more. You wanted a story. Yeah. And I think I've gone back and forth on my
position. I want to see campaigns and just, as you say, more stories, more just, throwbacks to that. If you're going to do it,
go deep. Correct, man. This is it. And for me, like we've done with the Whiskey Baron, we did an episode on packaging with top whiskies, talking about Highland Park as kind of a focus. I think it was Evan who sort of really didn't like the rebranding. And I've kind of gone back and forth. Do I like it? Do I not? There's elements that I do. There's elements that I don't. I understand what they're trying to do. They are trying to appeal to that younger audience. They're trying to bring people in. And I get it. I just think that, as Stevie says, they really need to go all the way. If they sort of took this Viking thing to the next level, you went onto the website and there was like almost like this little quest page where you've got like a mini game to play, or they start talking about more characters. Like they did this release not long ago, the tattoo. Is it tribal tattoo? Is it just Highland Park tattoo? I think
tribal tattoo. Yeah.
It's a tribal tattoo.
I think so, yeah.
And they've got one of the guys that works there, either the warehouse guy or the still guy. I can't remember his name. He's got big sleeves on. He looks like a really cool guy. Cool bit of promotion, fine. But again, it's like, go a bit further. Ardbeg, they did the ice cream thing, Yeah. And they did this whole day and they bought an ice cream van down and and it was all a big thing. Like, bring a tattoo van down.
Jake wants a full Viking reenactment.
I want a fight and a tattoo van.
But listen, let's be honest. They're not going to be short of stories back from that time to play on, right?
And I think, even if they are, make them up. I wouldn't know.
I don't care.
I'm not going to fucking call you out. There's so much shite that you could spew, and that would really just kind of bulk it out.
Now, someone might say that's a bit excessive going full Viking, but then when you look at the brand if you don't know anything about Highland Park,
it makes sense.
You'll be like, this is a Viking brand, right?
Yes.
And then when you dive into it, nothing more.
And I think the frustrating thing is they've done it better in the past,
right,
when they weren't so full on Viking in terms of like that branding. So we've got the slightly older bottle, we've got the Odin there. It came in this kind of big wooden long ship. The packaging's very fancy. There is a little booklet in it that tells you some of the story.
And that's so cool. And they've done a few releases, and the liquid isn't great in all of the releases, but there's a few releases. We saw some in Peter's, if anyone hasn't watched the episode, Dramming Out in Peter's Whiskey Room, he had some of them, and they're really beautiful displays. And that's a bit more of what I want to see.
Yeah, there was a Warriors series that was for travel retail.
Yes,
There was an old like Earl series from quite a while ago. And again, beautiful, like a medieval manuscript in terms of the illustration on it. A bit kind of like a very old Bible or kind of book that you'd see in a museum somewhere. Again, really, really nicely done.
Cool.
And this is all super generic. You've got Viking honor, Viking heart. Like, what does that mean? Like, where is the story? I think that's really that is the thing. Like, there
isn't anything to back it up.
Yeah.
I think that there is so much, like, obviously the Whiskey Baron, we've tried to sort of include stories in our bottlings, and we've done that through the augmented reality. It's like I say, you log onto their website, there's a game. You scan their bottle, there's something to, something. You need to give us more Highland Park, because I like it in essence. I get what you're doing, but like I say, I've kind of flip-flopped between like, this is cheap and off topic, and actually this is kind of cool. It
just gets to a point where I don't buy it, and then it makes me just lose a bit of like
faith in the brand,
just,
right?
just fall out of love with it a little bit, you know.
Well, and maybe it's time to move on to the 15.
And I
right?
tell you what I
Yes.
love about the bottle that you're holding here is it's a ceramic bottle.
Yeah.
We want to talk about Vikings and a time gone by. Really cool old school ceramic bottles. That's fucking cool, man.
Yeah.
That's different. That stands out on a shelf.
And with this, when they launched it, they were like, "Hey, let's afterwards maybe make it into a candle holder or something, or like use it, for a light, or recycle it, like upcycle it into some furniture in your house." And again, that's a cool, sustainable idea. Like they've done everything they've sourced everything from within the UK. But there's none of that on the bottle. Again, on the back, it literally just says complex and rich.
Yeah, for somebody like yourself who follows the brand, who knows the brand, who's deeply invested in the brand, you know that because you're on the pulse. You're a part of the whiskey community, But you're absolutely right. Somebody buying that in the shops off the shelf, and to be honest, somebody who's probably more likely to turn that into, because I can't see you turning that into a candle holder, to be honest with you, Ian. As arts and craftsy as you may look, sir. I think.
Thank you, mate.
All right.
I'm excited to try this. This is actually something I've never tried before, and I think you were
Yeah.
saying the same, right?
It's it's a new 15. I've had the old 15 a few times, and that used to be, again, I think 40%, but was one of my favorite in the range because it was lighter and less sherry driven than the others. And I love Highland Park in sherry cask, but it came through for a relatively young dram in a really lovely tropical way, and it was one of the easiest and most accessible ways of getting that tropical note from a whiskey without paying a lot of money from it. And it was just so very pleasant and easy drinking for the price.
This is delicious. This is really nice. This is very well balanced.
So we're going up in ABV a little bit here as well. So that's 44% for this new
44%,
release.
okay. Cool.
Um,
And where are we at price point? Out of
price
interest?
point, it's not too bad. It's about, I think, 75 pounds a bottle. So it's
Edging up into sort of more premium.
But you get a
whiskeys, but
ceramic bottle.
the ceramic
It's a
bottle.
bit different. It's a
Bit
bit
different,
stronger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I don't know if anyone else has
Natural color.
sampled this, but it's actually very, very nice. This would be my go-to Highland Park now. Having just tried the 12 and now the 15, this significantly outshines.
Is that because it's got a lot more sweetness in it?
It's just much better balanced and it's a
Okay.
bit more vibrant.
Right. Yeah. I know what you mean.
Do you know what I mean? It's a bit more alive in your glass. Like you say, that kind of fruitiness. It's not as sort of there is some. It's complex. There's some
Yeah.
complexity in there.
There's maybe less kind of pineapple and mango on this than you might have got on the old 15, but it's really lovely.
Have you been to many of
Juicy.
their tastings before, or any of their tastings?
So this is again a slightly odd thing about the brand. I actually spoke to them about like coming along to the whiskey club and stuff, and the response I got was, "We don't do private tastings," and they treated it as a private tasting. So they don't do whiskey clubs.
Okay.
So they will occasionally
I
come
wouldn't
along.
treat that as a private tasting, but okay.
Yeah, neither would I. But anyway, they occasionally come along to the odd shop somewhere. They obviously come along to the whiskey show and places like that. Actually, it's harder than you might like to be able to, apart from buying a bottle, try a lot of Highland Park.
Right.
Most of it has been stuff that I've bought or at various shows that
That's-
I've been to. It's disappointing.
Yeah, another shameful thing to hear from them, really. It's almost like their packaging is carrying the whole brand, really. Do you know what I mean?
And potentially relying on kind of uneducated, sort of newer drinkers.
That's not
in
taking
the
into account the
category.
liquid, sorry, but
No, but
just
you're
mean the
right.
whole
With the
brand as a
kind of
whole.
with the market approach,
correct.
I agree with you. I think that unless you're somebody like Ian who's kind of followed the brand and who's just grown a passion for the brand because he's so invested in whiskey as a whole, and it happens to have been very early, at the very start of your journey. But I think that they are kind of maybe relying a bit too much on kind of novice drinkers, people who don't know too much. It does look kind of cool, but it is very surface level. It's very thin. Thin marketing. Liquid is great. I have to say, I love Highland Park. We own not Highland Park, as in casks, you can buy it as either, Orkney, vatted malt or Whitlaw. We own some casks. It's good liquid. I'm always really, really pleased with it. Even now, the 12, even though I say it's not, it's not quite what I remember, it's still a really good whiskey. I would encourage you, if you haven't tried Highland Park, please do. But yeah, I think it's a bit thin. Want some more from you, Highland Park. It's an interesting distillery, though. It started in 1798. It was one of the first distilleries to get sort of proper licensing and all of that. And I'm going to get the names wrong here, but it's a really weird start in as much as the guy who set it up, it got taken. So I think John Robertson started it. This guy, Magnus, took it over like a couple of years later. And then Magnus was shut down by...
He was arrested.
Another Robertson, who was an excise officer. So it's like John Robertson started it, Magnus takes it over, and then, I don't know what his name is, Robert Robertson, takes basically Magnus Jönsson to jail for illicit stilling, and then takes over the fucking stills. And he operates them for another 10 or so years before their license. I think it's 1826, they get their still license. So it's so funny to me, like looking back, we were discussing this just before the podcast and everything. It's kind of like this Wild West scene of like...
Well, it was.
It's like the late 1700s, early 1800s, like you're just fucking trying to get your leg up in the world. And if somebody else is operating stills in your area, you want to be a whiskey, the whiskey man, you've got to kick them out, right?
I guess that's the thing, isn't it? Just imagine how wild, like, Orkney probably was.
Absolute madness. And this is the thing, we talk about illicit stills and whatever. Like, on the mainland, it would have been hard enough to find these sorts of people. But you've got a few sort of tribes up on the islands distilling. You've got lookouts there. As soon as you see a boat coming over, it's like, right, let's move the stills, lads.
Yep.
Excise are coming, let's go. And it would be so easy to hide on Orkney, like, especially like you say, back in the day when there's no roads and there's, forget it. Absolutely forget it.
Dog eat dog world back then, mate.
Exactly.
Really
exactly.
Was.
And it's so cool that they've been going since then. And it's such a colourful history. I was saying to Stevie as well, my favourite fact about Highland Park is in World War, I think, II, there were troops stationed on Orkney Island, and they actually used the washbacks in Highland Park as like a bathtub, essentially. They washed in them on a daily basis, which probably not on a daily basis, actually. They were probably a bit busy fighting in that. But yeah, like it's had some history. There's been some stuff going on there. I find that really, really fascinating. And one thing, I've never been to Orkney. I would love to visit.
Yes.
One thing that I really, really want to experience, and I forget the name of it now, which is kind of embarrassing, but New Year on Orkney, they have this really old school medieval game. It's almost like with like a quaffle, like from Harry.
Is that where it's
those big leather
played?
balls? It's played on Orkney, and basically they've got two ends of the town. They've got like this.
Is this where they board up the shops and houses and stuff?
Dib. Correct.
Yeah.
They board up all the shops. I can't remember how long this goes on for. I think it's like
Mad
a
game,
12-hour game or something.
Day, I think.
All of the locals get involved. If you don't want to get involved, it's like, get off the fucking streets because you're going to get hit.
And if you want to get involved, be prepared to be beat down.
Oh, listen, it sounds like, it sounds kind of like Gaelic football almost, pretty brutal. And the goalposts are essentially this like statue or spire or something at one side of the town, and then something at the other end of the town. And it's basically like Gaelic football with this really big old school. It sounds fucking awesome. It sounds so cool. And what I would love to do is visit for a new year and play that. I'll probably get the shit kicked out of me.
I'm going to strap a GoPro onto you, mate, while you play.
It would be like running with bulls, I reckon. Like, I reckon it would just be absolutely bedlam.
It's a madness, yeah.
It would be so cool,
really
though.
Is.
Really, really cool. And that's the thing. I think, like, again, why aren't they bringing those stories into their bottlings, Why aren't they... I don't know. I just think there's...
They're the only distillery on Orkney, obviously?
No. So they have been... Well, they were for quite a while. Scapa.
Okay.
Scapa is there now. When did Scapa pop up?
After Highland Park, but it's been there a long time. There have been, and there was another distillery on Orkney as well, Stromness. Stromness.
Yeah. You know what? I don't think I've ever heard of that before.
Stromness. There is a bottling of Stromness which goes for extraordinary amounts of money. Obviously never tried it. I think Stromness closed in something like 1926.
Cool. You know what? I'm going to have a little gander whilst we're chatting here. I'm fascinated.
Scapa has had periods of being closed for various points, and generally the Highland Park staff have taken over and kind of run stills for a little bit to make sure that nothing goes tits up too much.
Right.
So again, there are bottles of Scapa out there that effectively were made by Highland Park stuff if you know the right vintages.
Right,
Again,
right.
there's some guys I know online who are big Scapa fans. They're the ones to speak to.
Scapa has a huge following as well. I mean, it really does. I can't seem to see
Well,
if there's any closed distilleries in here, but
rumor has it it's the distillery that Billy Walker wanted to buy rather than Glenallachie, but Chivas would not sell it.
fascinating. That's really very, very interesting indeed. Would have put him on Orkney.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Look, I can't say I disagree. I mean, they're both great distilleries, right?
It's been bought and sold quite a few times over the 200 years that it's been going.
We talk about Highland Park.
Yes, sorry, yeah.
Sorry,
Highland
right,
Park, yeah. Now owned by Edrington. Yeah,
Edrington. Yeah, kind of one of the crown jewels in their
for sure.
portfolio.
Well, you were saying earlier
This is really good. I like the 15.
that Glenlivet or Fiddick
Yeah, Glenlivet bought them. Oh God, yeah.
a long time ago.
Yeah, I don't even know, mate. I think 60s, 50s, 60s. I don't know. Yeah, my history on this distillery, I have to say, is shaky at best. What I always remember is the fact that the troops used the washbacks as a bathtub. I just think that's so novel. Like, fucking brilliant. And now we're all drinking whiskey out of the same washback. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just gas crack. Fair play to them. All right, what's next? What are we supping on? We go to the Odins?
Odin.
Okay, so
Yeah.
what is the Odin? Because this was one of the special releases, right?
Yeah, this came out a hot minute ago now, probably 2016, 17. So there was a kind of like a Norse gods series. There was a Thor,
Can I have a look at the bottle, Jake?
a Loki, and another one that the name has now escaped me. They all came in these, as I said, ornate kind of longboats, and again, there was a set of all four that were available. That again, I think came on a kind of another longboat as well. But again, a little book kind of explaining a little bit about it, and there is a kind of like a beaten kind of metal effect to the bottle, which we'll never capture on camera.
No.
That's
It
really
is
cool.
no. It's a very different looking bottle. I give them that. I'm not sure I entirely like it, but it's very different. And fair play to them. They've been creative there.
This was the kind of more sherried of the release. It's 16 years old. Cask strength 57%, I think, Stevie.
55.8.
55.8.
Kind of a little bit treacly.
I have a feeling that you have shared this before with us.
Yeah, he has
Possibly,
definitely.
yeah.
Long time ago. But
This series was kind of expensive to start with, and actually they haven't gone up in value too much.
Mhm.
So these were about 200 quid a pop when they came out. Auction now you're looking at literally only 30, 40 quid more than that, maybe plus fees.
Right. Okay. No, I like that. 16, yeah?
Yeah.
And this is the thing, Highland Park does very well in sherry, right? It's a robust liquid. It really does suit the maturation well.
I think Highland Park in sherry up to about the age of kind of like 20, 21 is fantastic. After that, probably want bourbon just because of the kind of like slightly ethereal tropical note it takes on. I'd love to try a really old Highland Park sherry cask, don't get me wrong.
For sure.
But
No, I know what you mean. I think that sometimes brands do focus all too much on sherry. And I think that, and probably one big reason why it's up there as your favorite distillery or one of your favorite distilleries, I might be wrong, Bunnahabhain does that very, very, very well. Yes, they use sherry cask. Yes, they use all sorts of wine and fortified wines, and it's amazing. Their cask selection is sensational, but they always include elements of bourbon in releases that they it's very well balanced, and I, like you say, the kind of tropicalness that can bring, especially to a dram like this or like Bunnahabhain, like it's wonderful.
this is quite clean sherry, but the kind of peat cuts through it a little bit. What's interesting, and maybe I should have bought it as well, is if you compare it against there was another series, was the Dark and the Light that came out a couple of years after that, maybe 2019, something like that. Both 17 years old at cask strength. A little bit cheaper, they're about 170-ish each. That's a very, very dirty peat. And not in an Isla sense, it's not medicinal, but it just comes across as very earthy and filthy, almost more towards a kind of Campbelltown
Right.
style.
Okay. And is there a reason? Like, do we know if the peat was cut from a different area? Or?
No, it's still Orkney peat.
That's
They
really
always take
interesting.
Orkney peat, as far as I know. I don't
No,
think
they
there's-
do.
As far as
Yeah.
I'm aware as well,
Yeah.
and that's again a thing we should probably mention. Highland Park, Orkney peat, floor malting still.
Still turning them by hand. Yeah.
Like they are one of these kind of real old school distilleries. They're
Yeah.
still, and especially the fact that they are on an island, you've got to give them props for that, right? It's fucking cool. They really, really are doing it the old school way.
Yeah.
And I have to say, it does show throughout. Yes, they are ultimately creating a liquid for the mass market. I think that, going back to your question, would I like to see it at a higher strength? No, I would like to see releases that cater to whiskey aficionados more, as opposed to just. That doesn't mean it can't be branded the Viking release, but if you're going to do it, you need to go all the way for us, really sell it to us, so that there's a story with the liquid, not just a thin layer of fucking sales bullshit, right? And I think that's what I would like to see more from them.
The liquid is very consistent for me, though.
It's good, right?
In quality, yes.
It's very good.
Like, compared to, say, as I say, other brands on the shelves from their 12 and up, Highland Park, you can't go wrong.
Yeah, I think
Definitely.
for me, things I like, extensive range at a variety of price points, a good selection of OB single casks. They are generally for shops. You do have to hunt around a little bit more than with some, and they are mostly between kind of 10 and 16 years of age. So maybe not quite, not quite done in the same way that some other companies do. It's all natural color, even if there is some filtering in there. A good selection of special releases. Again, they could possibly be done better, like, say, Bunner, again, a yearly selection of different cask types being used. Like, maybe again it would be good to see something a little bit different there.
Yep.
But I think they do cater for a lot of people. They do they are not alienating the whiskey aficionado. There's plenty of choice. The pricing is,
I'd agree with that. Yeah.
the pricing is not cheap, but it's not egregious either.
Yes, yeah. No, it's toppy, but it's also, you can consider it.
Yes.
And even for, what's the 21 going for now?
About 220, 230 pounds a bottle.
It's not bad.
No,
it's not cheap, but it is not bad. I appreciate a lot of people might be like, oh, fuck, 220? You're mad. Why are you spending that much on whiskey? And I appreciate it's not for everyone. But if you are in whiskey and you want these interesting, old and rare drams, you got to fucking pay for them, right?
And again,
I think it's so funny listening to people talking about whiskey prices and whatever. Like, 21 years old, a brand like Highland Park, I think £220 is fair enough.
Again, it's 46%. Color comes nowadays in this kind of like wooden presentation crate box. It's not a box because it's not
case
sealed.
sort of thing.
It's not sealed at the front or the back. You take the top off, and it's got a holder for the top so it doesn't slip around, but it's also got a holder for the bottom. So if you want to look like a bit of a pillock and kind of have a plinth for your whiskey, it will double as a plinth. Like,
right.
Slightly odd, but I mean, potentially cool. Like, if you are having guests around and you want to kind of
if you want to have a bit of pomp and circumstance, show off, you took fucking right. Come on, look what I bought. Steve's not having it. Get it in my fucking glass
on the table,
darling. People are coming. Can you display the Highland Park, please?
Get my plinth.
Bring me my plinth. Nah.
It's probably not
You've
very
never
nice.
used it.
That is very
I've
posh
never used
Scotch,
it.
isn't
Exactly.
it? That is very
You've
posh
never
Scotch.
used
It's not very fucking Viking to get a plinth out, is it?
Be making a sacrifice before having a jam. Fuck a
Fetch
plinth.
the goats.
Oh, I wish they played more into the Viking thing. I really,
Yeah.
because there's just so much cool shit you
Highland
can do.
Park, Edrington, if you're not listening, I think we're all on the same page here, guys. Come on, sort it out. No, I agree. And I think a lot of people would agree. Like I say, we talked to Top Whiskies. They had a lot to say on that fact.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that there's just more that they can do. They've got such exciting liquid
Yeah.
and so much opportunity with their brand. Yeah, I'd love to see some really interesting what you say about the tastings. I'd love to see them doing tastings, doing more events. our recent trip to Springbank, what I loved hearing from them is like, it's so difficult to get Springbank. It's so difficult for the everyman to try. The fact that they're now really focused on getting out there. Let's do tastings. Let's invite people to the distillery. As opposed to doing loads of 70 centiliter bottles, let's do even more 20 centiliter bottles. Let's really spread out the love, you know?
Yeah.
I would like to see that from Highland Park. I'd like to see a bit more, you know, get people involved as opposed to just like, yeah, it's a Viking whiskey.
So this is the one thing that annoyed me a little bit. So the core range is insane. Like they've got a 40-year-old, they have a 50-year-old that gets out every year. It's not cheap.
Very cool.
It's £20,000. Incredible kind of like golden packaging with it. It looks insane.
Do you know anyone that's tried that?
No, I wish. They just released a 54-year-old. Not sure whether it's a single cask or not, but only 233 bottles, £39,000. I do know someone that's tried that. Apparently, and unsurprisingly, exceptional. Launched.
You fucking hope so. You've got to sell a kidney to buy the thing. You want it to be pretty fucking good.
This is not me being bitter that I didn't get an invite or anything, but, and this is maybe a sad state of affairs in whiskey in general, launched at an event where it was not in any way, shape, or form whiskey aficionados there. It was luxury
Billionaires.
Travel. No, it was journalists.
Yeah, that's what you want, right?
It was journalists. Yeah, journalists
Okay.
writing for magazines for billionaires. Travel, like luxury travel.
Dude,
like
I'm sorry to tell
Condé
you,
Nast, like
you're not going to sell a 39-gram bottle of whiskey, are you?
Condé Nast. Yeah. No, you're right.
And that's the thing. That's what they're trying to do, because I think that ultimately the whiskey aficionados aren't buying that sort of a thing. I think that by and large, you've got high net worth individuals showing off buying that.
But
sort
fucking
of thing.
Condé Nast don't need to try it. Like, what are they going to say about it? Oh, it tastes like whiskey.
Hey, listen, I agree. And you say that
Yeah,
you're not put out.
it
Right?
makes no
You say
sense.
you're not put out because you didn't receive an invitation. Where was my fucking invitation? I want an invitation. I am put out. It's not on.
I am a Viking.
Exactly. Come on.
You've got the fucking beard for it, mate. You could.
Invite me next time. I'll stand at the entrance and sort of shout things at people if you give me a free dram. I don't care.
Yeah, all of the Highland Park that I've bought over my 10 years would probably only buy me a dram of the fucking 4-year-old.
If that, right? Like a 10 CL dram.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, a 10 mil dram even.
Anyway, the 21.
Oh, I'm excited for this. Yeah, let's do it. Thank you, sir.
And what can you pick this up for, mate? What's retail this?
This one,
220,
about
you say?
220, 230.
You did
So
say,
yeah,
sorry,
I've only tried the most recent one I've tried of this is the 2018, 2019. I think
This is a 2019, yeah.
Oh, is it? Oh,
Yeah.
okay, cool. Might be the one I've tried then.
Is this the oldest bottle you own in your collection? Or
Of Highland Park?
Yes, of Highland
I have an old school 21 as well. So it's another 21-year-old that was, that is sealed still at the minute. That's the 47.5% version that was therefore distilled before. That's getting open soon, actually. I'm doing a Highland Park tasting in a couple of weeks' time. So
With who?
with my whiskey club. So we're going to do a compare and contrast of the 221s. I know a couple of people. Matt Mackay is one of the people that says the Highland Park 21, the old one that I have, is one of his favorite ever whiskeys. Yeah.
Wow, that's big props there. Wow. Okay.
And again, I've never had that old one. For me, the old 25, the 47%, is probably just as good, or probably not better, but just as good in a different way than the 30. And the old 30, you're now looking at £800,000-900,000, maybe even a bottle on auction. The 25 you can still get for 450, 500, just over 500. Not cheap by any stretch of the.
It's mad though, the jump, and like you say, the jump. You said it was a 50 and a 54-year-old, and you're at 20 or 37.
Yeah, you go from 20 to 39,000 for the 50,
doubling up. Like,
for 4 years.
It's really weird.
Yeah.
Really, really strange. And then you look at brands like Craigellachie, who released their oldest ever whiskey, 51, and they gave it all fucking away for free. Right? It's so interesting how brands approach the market. I find it fascinating.
Yep.
This is amazing. This is like velvet, right? It's like silk. It's even.
It's very silky.
It's
Yeah.
just like.
It's classy.
This belongs right on your shelf. This is a posh Scotch.
He bathes in it.
Yeah. It's Evian coming out of his tap, and he's got a Highland Park 21 coming out of his whiskey tap.
And a Viking scrubbing his back.
Yeah.
I will say, you're not going to like this, through the 4 drams that we've had here today, they're all great. The peat gets a bit tedious for me.
What do you mean?
It's always there and it's always taking over for me. Each dram I've had, granted we've just had 4 back-to-back in, 40 minutes or whatever, I can't get over that peat.
So you don't like the style of peat? Is that what you're saying?
Fucking love it.
No, I like it.
But like, dude, you're somebody who likes Kilkerran we were drinking the other day.
Yeah,
You
to
know,
me,
Leche-
Kilkerran is a little bit different. Leche is completely different peat.
So it's the style of peat you're not
It's-
liking.
I think it's the heatheriness of this peat.
Okay.
For
Yeah.
me.
Almost too floral.
Yeah, too much heather for me. And because we've had so many, it's just getting very tedious on the palate for me. Though, jumping onto the 21, I was a bit worried that, like, here we go again, even though they've been good and consistent. This is a lot better. As you say, silky, way more rounded than the rest. That heatheriness is something that I'm obviously only today finding out that I'm not
It's not
enjoying
quite hitting
too...
your palate the right way.
Yeah, no, for
That's
sure.
interesting.
For sure.
That's really interesting.
If I can get my hands on an old 25 or something, that I think is where it goes from, like, to me, delicious to, like, unicorn fucking poop.
That's really fair.
It's the way, like, the kind of tropical nature kind of interacts with the floralness,
Mhm.
and it's like proper, like, the Vikings can all fuck off because the Vikings have gone over to the Caribbean somewhere and they're having a fucking good time on the beach. Like, it changes the way that peat interacts with
I
the
mean, you're
whiskey.
going to obviously have less of that peat.
Yeah.
And then you would be
Yeah.
left more with the floralness of it, right?
Yes.
I guess.
But
At that
it's-
age, anyway.
It's never kind of Palmer Violet-y or kind of excessive. It's just like I said, this kind of like ethereal. It's like you've got a kind of white haze around the edge of your vision, right? It's like, you go to like a kind of 70s or 80s TV like dream sequence.
I love your notes, mate. Do love them. No, look, listen, I'm not complaining. There's people probably kissing their teeth at home and going, what are you chatting about? But, I guess just for me, my palate, the heatheriness of that sort of style
I
of
find
peat,
that really interesting.
don't enjoy it. Yeah.
That's really interesting considering what I know you do like. It's so interesting that it's like, it's not that it's an offensive flavor. It's just that it's not one that you quite like.
It's just
getting
that
along
note
with.
as well
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
back
yeah.
end there,
So one thing I would say about this, now that I'm supping on it way here and kind of taking my time, it's silky, it's smooth, it's delicious, it's big, This is a wealthy man's dram.
But
it's kind of one-dimensional. There's not a huge, I would say there's more depth to the Odin and the 15, maybe. This is like really good, but it's kind of like,
yeah,
okay.
I know what you mean. It's
like,
kind of in the same.
This is luxury.
Yes,
Do you know what I mean?
That's
what it is.
That was the word I was literally just about to use. In the same way that a Blue Label or a Macallan 18
Mm-hmm.
is like
Nothing to think over.
Yeah,
It's just good.
Yes.
Does what it says on the tin. Blue Label, it costs enough, it's good, bang. Yes, I agree. That's what this is.
It's a whiskey that you can put in front of, when your boss comes round or whatever, or you're hosting a dinner party and you're not sure what people's palate's going to be like. You put it, boom, this goes down in front of people. No one's going to be like, oh God, this tastes like socks.
No, of course, no. I don't think I could give this to, I think I could give this to my sisters who like whiskey. Like, just look, like even the smell of it. I think if I convince them to just have a little sip on this, wet their lips, I don't think they'd be too offended.
That's not bad.
Do you know what I mean?
That's all right.
I'll try it. It's only £220 a
Well,
bottle.
exactly.
It takes a lot to get my sisters to even consider looking at a whiskey. But yeah, no, I agree with you. I think it is. It's kind of, how could it offend anyone? It's really good. It's luxurious. It's premium. But it's not that complex. There's not much to it. It's just really fucking good liquid.
Yeah, I think, and one of the things that I like about Highland Park is I think for me it's a taste of and a vision of Scotland, right? Kind of generic romantic Scotland, probably going to offend some people, right? But it's
Have you tried Iron Brew, mate?
oh, for fuck's sake. Yeah, you know, we're going to have a Buckfast episode.
We are. That's next. How did you know? I love Buckfast.
Like, so you look at the front. I'm not sure it's on the current label or whether it's like the advertising. Like, you look at the grouse advertising, right? And it's like Loch, Mountain, Field of Heather, grouse, right? And it's like all you need is like a thick-set man in a kilt tossing a caber, and you've got like every American man's dream of Scotland, right?
For sure.
This tastes a bit like that kind of like,
yes,
right?
Yes. That is such a good way of explaining it. 100%. I couldn't agree more. Yeah. This is when Americans think of a premium Scotch whiskey, and any Americans who don't really know much about whiskey, but really like premium and they want to try something cool. And this goes for anyone. I'm generalizing with Americans here, but I can hear Americans going, that's a really good Scotch whiskey, you know, like, and this is what they're talking about 100%. It's luxurious, it's silky, it's premium, it's boom, 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 but it's not going to offend anyone, you know? And I think that some of the drams, particularly you, I think it's interesting that you're not getting along with this, because I think some of the drams that you would try,
no. Listen,
you put that in front of other people and they'd find it so offensive to their palate, like the richness, the peat, the fucking filth.
I appreciate it. I'm really enjoying it.
No,
just
but
the
it's just not
heatheriness.
quite there for you. And I think that's
fine.
really interesting.
Completely entitled to that. No, Ian, thank you so much for bringing these drams.
Great
anytime.
drams.
Let's
run
I guess
through.
We're going to do a buy or
let's
don't
do a
buy.
buy or a don't buy. So the 12, look, I'm still buying it. It's reasonably priced, right?
Yeah, of course.
Reasonably priced. It's something good to share with friends.
It's probably one of the only bottles that I've had consistently just in my cupboard, just there.
Right.
It hardly gets touched, but every now and then it does.
Yeah.
And as you say, when people come around that haven't drunk whiskey, that comes out.
Yeah.
You know,
Or
because it
if
is
you're in whiskey and you haven't tried
inoffensive.
anything peated, go to this.
Yeah,
This is
it's not crazy.
Yeah.
it's approachable peat.
Yeah, it's
It'll give you an
approachable peat.
insight to peat without putting you off it for life, right?
Yeah.
You know, I think that's
Approachable Pete.
Approachable
So they
Pete,
just call you
right?
that.
So
That's cool.
have we got 3 buys?
Yes.
Buy the Highland Park 12. All right, where are we next? The Highland Park
15.
15 for £75.
Yeah.
I'd drink that. I think it's cool. I think it's different. I like the bottle.
Yeah, for 75 quid, definitely. I'm in.
I really
I'm
liked
in.
it. Yeah.
Buys?
Yeah.
Buy. Cool. All right, the Odin.
Odin.
Obviously, you can't really buy it anymore.
Auction, you're looking, you know, all in somewhere in the kind of 225 to 250 region.
I'm not sure.
It's probably my favourite out the 4, but it's a little bit up there.
I
price-wise
would
for me.
agree. I think that for me, I don't know. I'm on the edge with the Odin.
So
I don't think I'd buy the 21.
okay, that's
It's
interesting.
good, but I'd let somebody else just pour it for me.
So let me
I
ruin.
wouldn't pay for it.
You'd invite Ian round again.
I'd invite Ian around and I'd share something of mine with him. I'm not expecting a free
So,
pour, Stevie.
As,
I'm just saying.
as someone who's fucking bought this, I'm gonna say don't buy.
Right.
So I prefer the dark.
Okay.
It's cheaper. It's a year older. It's slightly higher ABV. It's more out there Highland Park.
Okay.
It's dirtier, and it's 50 quid less.
Right.
I would also say if the other option, the travel retail Highland Park 18, where they put the strength up to 46%, slightly more sherried as well, is probably a cheaper way of experiencing most of what you get here. And
For
that's
sure.
probably like 110, 120 pounds at airports, readily available, has been for years.
Half the price sort of thing.
Also comes in a black bottle, as does the dark, if that's what you're looking for.
For sure.
So I think this is great whiskey. It's just not worth the premium over those other two.
I'm leaning towards you with this one. I would agree, Stevie. I think that was probably marginally my favorite whiskey.
Stood
Not
out
far
more
ahead of
than-
the 15.
Stood out more than the others. for sure.
But yeah, I think it is a bit rich for my blood. You know, look, if you got the money, worth a try. But I'm not buying that one. I don't think. Yeah.
Okay, and then the 21.
21. Nah. It's great. I like it. I'm just.
And
at
it's actually a really reasonable price.
Hey, look, 21 years
Considering-
it would look absolutely. I'm not
Yeah.
saying it's not worth the money. I'm saying that for me, where I'm
Yeah.
at in my whiskey journey, I don't look for that sort of easy drinker. And if I do look for that sort of easy drinker, I've got a extensive repertoire of whiskies that are significantly cheaper and more accessible than a Highland. Do you know? No. But I mean,
I know.
like really light,
I
easy
know,
drinking
yeah,
whiskey.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I mean, fuck. Why am I going to spend £220 on a bottle when it's a bit much for my for my taste.
I actually picked this up on auction for a little bit less than that. It was 160 plus fees, so I got it for about 175
That's
all
all
in.
right. That's all right.
Certainly,
I'd take it for 175. I'd take a pop at one.
yeah.
Just to have it on the shelf. I'd open it straight away and it would be on the shelf and I'd give it to,
Yeah, under
vulnerable.
that £200 bracket. Yeah.
Huh?
Under the £200 mark, yeah, I probably would.
Again, I think for me, like,
Then again, how much is the Glendronach 21?
That's
only-
175 now, RRP.
Yeah, see, I would, well,
Yeah.
Woo-wee.
you'd go for that before
I
that.
was buying those at 90 quid at one point.
I think we were selling them at 120 quid or something.
Yeah.
We were selling
Selling
them
or whatever.
for a pint of raspberries and a kiss.
Yeah.
I've
I've got a couple of punnets of raspberries at home.
well, you've got a couple of bottles coming your way if I get 2 kisses. Fair enough, man. No, look, I like the Highland Park range. And sorry, wait, where are we? Are we buying the 21?
I'm not.
I am.
All right, so we've got one buy for the 21, but I think by and large, Highland Park is a very lovely brand. We all think
Absolutely, yeah.
it's on the money. The 15 is really cool. The 15 has been my favorite of today.
Yeah.
I think it's really, really actually quite exciting for its age, for its price. Definitely one to try. Yeah, Edrington, just get on the
More
marketing.
stories, right?
Yeah, more stories.
stories,
Really get us involved with it. And if you want some ideas, come and have a chat with us because apparently we've got fucking plenty of them.
Oh, we'd all fucking love to come to Orkney, wouldn't we?
And yes, especially at New Year's. So we'll wait for your invite. Thank you all for joining us. It's been another wonderful episode of Uncut and Unfiltered. As always, we will see you next time.
Skull.
Sláinte mhath, guys. Take care. Take care.